Welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today I got a real treat for you. Her name is Keeli Carlton, and she is the Water Policy Program Manager for Seminole County Government in beautiful Florida. Keeli, say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everybody?
Love it. All right, Keely. So, Water Policy Program Manager. It's such a vague title. I'm sure you're chuckling, so you probably get this a lot. But I like to use titles as a way to show, what they're supposed to be, and then also what you actually do. So, tell us what the title is made for, and then tell us kind of the work that you do from day to day.
Okay, so Water Policy Program Manager, it is a mouthful, but basically Seminole County is trying to implement a holistic water policy program. So basically taking the silos of water, you've got your utility, you've got your watershed management, and everything else in between, and just trying to blend that all together. So creating policies and programs that make sense to take everybody out of their silo. When you're planning developments, when you're planning operations in your utility, and when you're just planning, facility maintenance. At the end of the day, it's going to take somebody to put water on the map.
Okay, that that sounds like it could be a lot. I got more questions. So, does one would you say you touch in or on all the different silos, so to say? Meaning like you're hanging with the watershed guys on a Tuesday, then on the Wednesday you're hanging with the wastewater collections crew. Like, what is, I guess, tell us the day to day, and then give us a rundown of a random Tuesday. Like, from the time you get to the office to the time you leave, what are you into?
Okay, so currently, this is a very new program. So my day-to-day is just making the connections with stakeholders. So I've been internally talking to the directors of all the different departments within the county, but also I've been reaching out to people in the community, like our environmental groups and land managers and friends of the Wakaiva Springs. So it just really just depends day to day who I'm talking to, trying to just make the connections so people know that we're here and that this program exists.
Okay. And then Seminole County, I'm learning counties are different than cities. That they have a little bit different. So give us the lay of the land for the county. I guess square mileage, how much, millions of gallons a day. What's give us the lay of the land for the
So
county.
we are a small county considering. Like I said, this is a new program and I'm fairly new to Seminole County government. I was in Polk County more recently, which is one of the larger counties in the state and rapidly growing. Seminole County is fairly built out. And like I said, one of the smaller counties. We currently pump around 15 million gallons a day and then, produce the reclaimed from that.
Okay.
But we are surrounded on three sides by water, and 40% of our land coverage is water. So it is very important to our board that water is a priority moving forward. We want to continue to grow, but we want to be successful in that growth. What draws people to Seminole County is the springs and our rivers and our wetlands, and just it's beautiful here.
Okay.
We're very close to the beach, but we are more inland as well. So we do have the great river system. I mean, I could just go on and on about how gorgeous it is, but protecting the natural resources is a priority. And so we can't overpump, and we have to make sure that our operations are, successful as well. So we're not polluting the waterways too, because it's an attraction.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That gives me some context on it. And I can see why you left, Polk County, because you said it's a lot more beautiful. No shade to Polk County, but answer this for me. What's it like? I get it. You're new. You're still making the connections. You're meeting the stakeholders and the directors. What are some of the initial reactions when you come to them and say, "Hey, I need everybody to play nice in the sandbox, and I'm going to be the glue"? What are kind of the responses you get, and then what would you see as some of the, I guess, hurdles you might have to jump over to get that to happen?
Well, so far so good.
Mm,
I'm getting really good reaction. So like an example, currently, I reached out to our facilities maintenance department, right? And I was like, hey, do you guys have a water audit program? We're looking to start internal policy on, taking care of our internal facilities so we can be the model when we go out into the community and say we want to start a commercial, industrial, institutional water audit program. We want to make sure it works. So I kind of reached out to that director and was like, what would it take, or what would you need from me to, have this internal policy that we're doing water audits at all of our internal facilities, making sure that we're, saving money, but
yeah.
also we want to save the gallon. So to them, it might be that, cost benefit of doing like a fixture replacement program or the water audit program. So kind of had a couple meetings with them, but they were really excited to know that I could take some workload off of their internal staff and actually creating the policy and the program for them. And then maybe I would have a little bit in my budget so they could actually do the replacements of certain fixtures so they're more, water efficient on the inside. And then we can even go as far as having like our water conservation coordinator position track the water use. So then
Mm,
they can equal that to savings. So they were kind of excited that, I could take some workload off because you always get the initial, well, we've always thought about doing that, but we don't have the staff or
yeah,
we don't
yeah.
have the funds or
Yep.
whatever. But it's like, we have a program, I can facilitate that, or I can make the
Uh,
connection for you. And they were just like, great, let's do it.
yeah.
So,
I can already see it. They're gonna love you.
yeah.
For sure. Um, let's talk about Keely's career path. You didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to be the water glue for everybody at at the county. But give us the career path, let's say from high school all the way up until today. Like what did you do? Just in case somebody wants to model their career path after yours.
Yeah, so I've always, ever since I was a little girl, I've been obsessed with just nature. Um, my mom and dad were really not so much into going outside, so she'd put me in my little dolly dresses and I would run off and come home all muddy because I was, outside playing with things she
Yeah.
didn't want me to, and come home with lizards on my ears and all that
Okay.
good stuff. Oh yeah, Florida girl, 100%. Anybody from Florida listening to this will know what I mean when I say
Lizards
lizard
on the ears.
earrings.
I'm
Yeah,
from California.
yeah,
I have no clue what that is. Well, go ahead.
yeah. Hopefully somebody will comment or something and be like, yes, Florida woman all the way. But anyway, so from a very young age, I knew that I wanted to protect Florida, Florida born and raised. So when I went to college, I studied environmental studies and growth management. And from there, I got a job working in land management. So prescribed fires, monitoring rare and endangered species. And mainly my work was done in like the scrubby habitat of Florida. So, that Polk County, center of Florida, very rough climate. And from there, I, started my family and had some kids. So I wanted a better schedule for for the
Yeah.
family. Ended up getting into teaching. So I taught special needs kids for probably 3 years. It was a really good schedule that I had the same, time off with my children. And finally, I was like, I kind of want to get back into the environmental field. It's my
Mm,
passion. I, I want to go back into public service. So was just Googling jobs and found a water conservation position in Winter Haven, Florida. And it aligned nicely with my environmental studies background, okay, conserving land, conserving water. Um, and quickly found out that Florida is going into this whole like more holistic approach to
uh,
water management. And with that, conserving land and water and knowing the connections between the two was really important. And I quickly fell in love with the water utility world.
okay.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. All right. All right. Let's say a youngster's interviewing you. They're asking you, Keely, what is the main skill set they should pick up to be successful at what you currently do? What would that main skill set be?
Okay, so I would say communication is key. Um, yeah, communication is definitely
Okay.
something very, very important. You have to be able to understand a little bit of the technical side of the water utility so you can make it make sense to all the stakeholders that have absolutely no clue what the utility world is doing. And I mean, even in watershed management, there's a lot of technical terms that when you're giving presentations, people kind of glass over.
Yeah.
So just kind of knowing how to speak the lingo between your technical folks and your average day, just citizen is super important.
Okay. Okay. Communication it
And
is.
then I
But
would also say collaboration, knowing how to, make those connections and not being afraid to collaborate.
yeah. Collaboration is a tough one. Communicating also, but I feel like we communicate every day. But like even coming through college, like you kind of learn that like, it's you versus everybody else. The class is 40, 50 people and you get your own grade and you're kind of just in your silo. So how does one get reps in collaboration if it's not, I mean, even in like in workplaces, if you don't volunteer for certain things and do things with other people, you won't get those reps. So what would you say somebody does to get better at collaboration?
Yeah, so I think what made me kind of like that skill a little bit was when I first started in the water utility, the director would kind of just throw out projects at team meetings, and he's like, "Who wants to take this?" And the
Mm,
room was silent because it usually didn't
yeah,
match,
yeah,
what they were doing, and so nobody wanted to do it. And I just kind of started grabbing a little bit of everything. And I think one of the biggest things was he wanted to redo, like make a book of all the SOPs in
yeah,
the utility. And I thought that was a really good way for me to learn.
yeah.
So, and about everything in the utility.
Boom,
So
solved.
basically, I
Yes,
took that and I ran with it, and I was
yeah,
just chasing people down. I was riding in trucks around the city, and I was, because I was running into a lot of, no, we've never written it down. It's all in my head. I know
yeah,
it. And I'm like,
yeah.
well, it's not in my head. So I want to write it down for you. So I kind of just had this, I don't know,
Yeah,
idea of I'm just going to ride around and just start writing stuff down.
totally.
So yeah,
Okay.
I guess it's a kind of a personality thing too.
Yeah.
Not everybody would just jump in a truck with somebody that's like, get away from me.
No,
Don't
you're
chase me
right.
down.
I think a lot of the developmental, I guess, barriers to us is we say no to things. If we said yes to things, like we'll get that unique project that you might not ever do every 3 years, but it's something that you can go, oh, I figured out this skill set and I can add this to my tool belt of tricks moving forward.
Yep.
One thing you talked about working with special needs children.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes there can be difficult people in our industry to work with.
Mhm.
What are some of the, I guess, tips that you've or that you would give to people who work with, you different, I would not marginalized, but just different people in the industry who don't normally think or act or communicate like normal people?
Right. No, that's a really good question. So it really opened my eyes to that there are a lot of different learning styles.
Yeah.
I might be set in my ways. I'm very visual. I need to write stuff down. I need to see it. I need to touch it. Um, but I might be communicating with my director who's very much more technical, at sometimes, and he doesn't need that. It's just like one or two words and he's done. And then not being able to like take that to heart, like feeling dismissed, just knowing that is his or her, communication style. But I learned that through the children that I was teaching, that there was not one size fits all with teaching them. I had to have a toolbox. It was not a standardized classroom. I had to have, you know, fidget toys for the ones that needed, that I needed extra hands on deck during certain activities because it was kindergarten. So I still wanted to, be having fun, but it could turn into chaos in a moment of, you know, zero point 0.2
Yeah.
seconds. So just like understanding, um, yeah, that not everybody is the same and not everybody is you.
Yep.
And you will encounter that. And if you could just go into, situations, just knowing there's no one size fits all.
Yeah. No,
And that you might have to shift your communication style depending on who you're working with.
totally. Like I am one of my earlier jobs. I remember working with the guy and I could tell he would always, like like let's say you and I are talking face to face in person, like he would always like tap my shoulder, like he was real physical. I remember trying to figure out like, why does this guy keep touching me? Like I don't know, we work together, but I don't know this guy. Why does he touch me?
Mhm.
And then I remember like diving into it a little bit deeper, and then it says that's a part of being on the spectrum. Like he can throw a football, he can talk about football like normal guy, but you could tell there were certain ticks or certain things he did that he might not thrive in other situations of what, and you could tell there might be a ceiling to where he could go, in life because of certain things that were on the spectrum. I'm thinking like, man, I didn't like, you always think special needs, they're the people that you never see, that you never interact with, the short bus, like the ones that were never at lunch with us, but they're out in society with us. And I appreciate how they do go out and get jobs and are being served in certain circumstances. But it's interesting, like a lot of us don't think that they're amongst us and we should, treat them appropriately.
Yeah, they're actually like this started way back in when I was in middle school and high school. There was a program called Best Buddies, and I was the president of the club in my
Of
high
course you were.
school.
Yeah.
And it was basically like you had a match. So the children that were in the special needs class would fill out a survey, or they would do it with their family, and then we would fill out a survey on in the club of our likes, our interests, and everything, and then we would match with a student that had special needs, and we were able to like go to the mall together if we like to shop, or go to football games, or go to a dance competition, or do school inclusive activities. And so it was more of that like acceptance of like, yes, this is a human being, where at school they might have been just off in a different classroom. It's like, no, come, like it's that being inclusive. And
Yeah.
that has always just stuck with me. And it's so important that, I've run into situations at work where, you hear people kind of chit-chatting about somebody else in the office. And I'm not doing that because, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I just always have made it a point to be like, no, we
Yeah.
need to include, like everybody is included. We're
Yeah.
all just humans at the end of the day.
Yeah, good for you, man. It's nothing worse than seeing somebody who's been outed by the group, because we all
Mhm.
want community. We all want to collaborate. So
Yep.
talk about that for hours, but we got to move
I
on.
know.
All right, it is story time. I need a story from Keely. When something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
I wouldn't say it was so much under my watch, because with a program manager role, you're not, you're a manager of a lot of different things, sometimes a few people here and there. You're more of the, I don't know, I would say like a spider building a beautiful web.
Sure.
But yes, there is, I've had things definitely go wrong. And, I think it's just knowing who to go to when those things happen to kind of help it along. And in my situation, it was more of like a communication thing. Something was going on in the utility. People needed to know about it. It wasn't crisis mode quite yet, but it was kind of like, how do we do this? And so it was getting all the proper people at the table to come up with the communications to the residents type thing. So again, not like something completely went wrong under my watch, but kind of saw that some stuff was unfolding and just made sure that it didn't unfold in a bad way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Awareness.
Sure, sure. And yeah, you did say in your job description that you do internally communicate with stakeholders of water, but you also talk to the community.
Mhm.
Is it like, are you talking to the community in regards to all the different silos, or is it just more so like stop using so much water and quit pouring paint down the drain?
Well, yeah, so like a lot of like the goals of this program, like I said, they hit a lot of the water utility and watershed stuff. So it's water, like enhancing water conservation. So how can we communicate to our residents on that? We do have an amazing communications department. But again, when you have that expert on the inside that also knows how to properly communicate, the industry is so helpful. So it's like we can come up with the package campaigns or the package, ideas of, and showing the connections between watershed management and conserving water, and what's going to make your utility successful into the future. So kind of just having those bullet points and being able to convey that message to our communications department that makes it pretty and can put it out on the social media and the web is really important, I think.
Okay. Okay. Good stuff. All right. So I need to know how Keely continues to get better and better day after day, week after week, month after month. Like, what do you do as a personal development and professional development?
So professional, I am very active in our Florida section, American Waterworks Association. So, and I'm the PAC chair, which is the Public Affairs Council chair. So I really like to stay involved that way. So I know what's fresh in our industry. But I take advantage of the webinars that they put on, and I always try to pick something that's a little bit more technical because, like I said, I'm not really the technical go to, but I have to make it make sense when I'm talking to people. So I like to go to those technical webinars at least monthly, just so I'm current and I can have the conversations internally and then translate it. Also, I like to take advantage of like certification programs. More recently, I went through a leadership and development and public administration certificate program. I went and I did a graduate certificate at the University of Central Florida in public administration. And then I also took advantage of, it's called the Transformative Water Leadership Academy, and it's put on by the American Waterworks Association and Water Now Alliance. And that really just elevated my career.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
really, sorry. I had like, such high hopes for myself that when I graduated with my bachelor's that I was going to go right back into school, and,
Uh,
kind of go all the way. And that did not happen. So when I started my career, I was like, oh man, especially being a public servant, they usually have benefits and they will pay for you to further your career. And so I've really honed in on those certificate programs. They've been great.
Nice, nice. This TWLA, you said it was pretty transformative for you. Like,
Yeah.
give us the I guess the economics behind it. Like, how long was it? What, and then some of the main things that you got out of it that others might want to look into some similar type of program.
Oh yeah. So this program, it hosts a blend of water professionals. So there was people from all over the country and into Canada in this group. And there was about 50 of us in all different positions within the water industry. So it was really, really awesome. But it really engaged us to kind of think outside of the box in leadership. So a theme going around that group was, well, whenever you present a new idea, you get, an answer back of, no, this is the way we've always done it. We're not going to go further. And then, so it's like how you overcome that in this day and age. So the innovation side of it, it really teaches you, when I heard that, I was like, oh man, I'm not into technology, right? So I was kind of thinking they were going to be forcing us into like the technology world being innovative, but it was how to be an innovative leader, like coming up with different ways to cut the red tape in government and how to collaborate better with your community, to understand the connections between the environmental, financial, and social aspects of the water industry. So again, like busting out of your silo of where you are and just teaching you how to grow your mind. It was a really personal journey. It actually helped me elevate my career. In the middle of it, I got this position, which was kind of a leg
Wow.
up from where I was. So I
Yeah.
kind of gained that confidence to be like, you know what, I want to take the next step, and kind of just, and it helped me get there. So
Yeah.
I think if anybody out there is looking for like a 10, I think it was a 10-month program, um, 2 hours, maybe 4 hours a month with a little bit of travel. but I created connections with people. Like I said, I could call somebody, up in Toronto tomorrow if I had a question, and they'd be right there for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so. Answer this for me. A lot of people they look at these types of courses and they go, okay, it'll help me out, like you said, internally, personally, but sometimes the managers or their bosses don't respect those or don't like want to give those any merit or any equity. So they don't they might take 5 courses and be a really, really good operator, engineer, or supervisor. But if the director level doesn't respect it, they won't give them the nod for that promotion.
Mhm.
So what do you say to those who are kind of discouraged or say, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna just keep operating as I do, then time will come and I'll get my promotion?
I think, just keeping the open mind that at the end of the day, it is more of that personal journey. And yes, staying with the organization that you're in, because you're passionate about what you're doing, is okay. But at the end of the day, if you're going to take the time and develop professionally and personally, you have to also have the mindset of, I might have to leave where I'm at to get to where I want to go. And sometimes that sucks,
Yeah.
especially invested in where you're at. Um,
Yeah.
if you are building your life and, have kids in school and whatever, and you have to move. But at the end of the day, that might be like the best thing for you. And you
Yeah.
just have to have that
Yeah.
mindset though, that if your direct leadership is not there for you, there is somebody out there that's looking for you.
Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. That's a good point. Put that on loop every day. All right, let's talk misconceptions. I'm sure you're out in the public, the other soccer mom will ask you, Keely, what do you do? And you tell them, you say, well, I'm the water policy program manager for Seminole County Government.
Yeah.
What do you think that she thinks, you do?
Yeah, so this has actually happened, and actually recently internally kind of talking with somebody. They were like, oh, well, that's so regulatory. We try to stay away from regulatory, and we don't like policies and procedures. We like education. And policy at the end of the day gives a little bit of teeth to things that are necessary. Education is 100% what I do at the end of the day. Like when you look
Yeah.
at this kind of job, it's the education, it's the communications, it's this and that. I've even had specific like project managers look at me in meetings and be like, why are you here? Are you trying to take over my project? Or like, how does this make sense? Go get me some coffee, like,
Yeah.
are you here to take notes? And it's like,
Wow.
so again, pointing back to those communication skill set that I kind of talked about in the beginning, super important that when you do face those, obstacles, or somebody's like, oh no,
Yeah.
we don't like policy or whatever. It's no, you do. At the end of the day, it's giving stuff a little bit of teeth
Yeah.
to get stuff done. But I'm your person that's gonna facilitate. I'm gonna connect. I'm gonna communicate, and then your project is gonna go smoothly when it has to run into another project. Program management is huge, and I just think that there is a misconception of managing programs and then policy, and
Yeah.
there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it's funny. I have this conversation with like inspectors. Like they have to be amongst their peers who are out doing the work, and they have to keep a good relationship or rapport. They don't want to come out as like, oh, I'm Big Brother, or oh, you know, I'm gonna audit you guys and tell everybody what you're doing wrong. So how do you skillfully navigate that relationship of, I'm here to help, but I'm here to make sure we're doing things right and we're safe and we're doing things, by the book, but I still want everybody to have fun and still like me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really just think like a lot of that stuff goes back to that personality type. People that are in those roles end up learning to navigate it. If they don't last too long in that kind of role. You really have to create those relationships up front to really explain like what you're doing there. So, and it's important really too to have your top leadership and your senior, management, your directors even, um, kind of tell the story for you too. Because it's like, hey, we're going to send so-and-so out into the field. This is why. And then when they get
Yeah.
there, it's kind of they can just pinpoint
Yeah.
why they're there too.
Now that's a good point. I'm sure it's a better reception when, like, big boss in the ivory tower says, Keely's coming out. She's only here to do this and that. Like, leave her alone. Let her do her job. And you
Yeah.
can walk out there and say, hey, here's some donuts, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, this role specifically, I like to think of it as like an umbrella for a lot of different cool stuff in the water industry.
Sure.
Um, Being able to create lots of different programs, and really enhance what's already happening in water conservation, enhance what's happening in watershed management, and ensure that at the end of the day, that the utility is going to be that reliable service. And, whatever I can do in between all of that to make sure that at the end of the day, that even our utility workers are, elevated in the
Sure.
community. That's really
Sure.
important.
Yeah. No, that's a whole nother podcast episode.
Right.
All right. I always like to ask, if you were commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Seminole County, what ask of your community in regards to water or water policy would you put on this billboard?
So I think it would be like a all water is one water campaign, just to kind of teach those connections. Florida has a lot of people that are not native to Florida or haven't been here for a while. And they see water everywhere. You drive down any road, there's probably going to be water. We've got the beaches, we're surrounded by water. So when you start to communicate that there's stress or challenges in water supply, or our systems are degrading in the natural system, teaching those connections between the water use and, our water supply is coming from our natural system. So just showing that all water is one water, I think would be what I would do on a billboard.
Okay. Okay. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey. And then also, I want you to give a word of inspiration and motivation to your fellow water policy counterparts across the country.
Yeah, so I think my mentor that I would thank is Danielle Ivy, and I worked with her at in Volusia County, and so she kind of hired me as her intern right when I graduated from college. I know I did mention that I had a love for nature and would be muddy coming home and stuff, but I never had the opportunity to do land management activities. So my parents didn't have tractors or ATVs or anything like that, and didn't want me, using chemicals to spray the yard. A lot of what I wanted to do when I was interning and land management skills, you have to kind of have a little bit of background in, like, at least even using tools. I had nothing. My high heels at that point were my tools. And the people interviewing me kind of were just like, yeah, this city girl is not cut out for this. We're not, I was definitely looked over. And she was like, let's just give her a chance. And she told me this kind of later on. And I ended up working out just fine. And I learned everything that I needed to know about land management from her. And to this day, we still talk about the fun adventures. It was supposed to be like a 6-week internship type thing, real quick. I lasted a whole year. They kept telling me to come back. They're like, we want, like, stay until you can find a job type thing. And I have her to thank. And I actually just recently connected with her again in our work. So she's elevated in her career too, from land management into more project related stuff with Audubon. And we were in a meeting together, and we were just laughing about,
Oh,
certain things that she was
yeah.
teaching me, and, how many times I got the ATV stuck, and all these good adventures. But 100%, I think I really have her to thank, because if I was overlooked, I don't know if I would have
Yeah.
been where I am, like, today, because I have that same mindset too, is like, you never know until you try. So
Yeah.
when I'm interviewing people, or if I'm hearing
Mhm.
stories of like, oh, I don't know if they're a good fit, I'm like, you don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Give it a shot and they might actually surprise you.
And it's
Um,
funny because I like, yes, land management, watershed, like that is kind of a job where you get dirty, you're outside. But like, how do you rep that before you get the job? You know what I'm saying? Like it, yeah. You said your heels were your tools. Like I get that. Like I'm a city guy
mhm.
also. Like I don't before I got in this industry, I didn't know there were that many pipes underground. You get what I'm saying? Like I didn't know that like, the big thing, the stinky thing on the corner of town was a wastewater treatment plant. Like, but yes, give people a chance. Don't write people off, because if somebody's interested in it, they will learn those skill sets and the nomenclature and the tempo and the tone for that industry. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then I want you to give a word of inspiration and motivation to your fellow industry counterparts across the country.
Oh man, just keep doing what you're doing. There are not a whole lot of us out there, trying to elevate this industry and being the cheerleaders and trying to make those connections. And I mean, just keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Okay. Good stuff. All right. Let's say I'm coming to town and I text you ahead of time. I say, Keely, where can I go to get the best burger in Seminole County? Where are you going to send me?
Oh man. Okay, so food is like, I am such a foodie.
Okay.
Um, love food. So I would say there are some really good spots. But one in particular, I love 4th Street Bar and Grill, and it's in downtown Lake Mary. And when I say downtown, it is one street. It's real tiny. It's got a beautiful park, um, and our city hall, and that's about
Okay.
it. And some
Okay.
shops, some beautiful boutiques and stuff. But 4th Street Bar and Grill has amazing food. The atmosphere is awesome, and just the people are great. That little
Okay.
town feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's up with you going from county to county to county? Is that like your thing?
Uh, oh, okay. So I grew up in Seminole, so I actually came
Okay.
home in this
Oh,
transition. Yeah, it's been great.
that's cool.
But yeah, I started in Volusia interning. I did. Yeah, I could say I'm doing kind of like a
Yeah.
county tour here. Public service though is my thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just kind of how it's fallen out.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All good. All good. I
yeah,
love it. All right. Well, Keely, thank you for hopping on the podcast
yeah.
today. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Keely, any final words before we get out of here?
No, just everybody in this kind of work, just keep doing what you're doing.
Mm,
Yep.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on the podcast. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.